Would you be on besides Supernatural? The Originals, Chicago Fire, Doctor Who.
What is The Originals?
It's about a family of vampires, like the world's oldest vampires, and they live in New Orleans, and they have to deal with like werewolves, other vampires, witches.
Let me tell you, my friend,
too.
I've never played a vampire before, and I was like kind of obsessed with werewolves and vampires when I was a kid. Like I was always convinced, especially when I started acting, I'm like, I'm gonna play a werewolf. Like, I'm a werewolf. I'm a Yukon boy, I'm wily, I've howled at the moon more times than I can count. I'm gonna play a werewolf. And it hasn't happened in my career yet. So that show sounds amazing. I would love to be on that. Well, it would have been amazing. Then let's talk past that. It would have been amazing to have been on that show. Maybe I could be on a new one. And then you mentioned Chicago Fire would be great too. I mean, I've got so much respect for anybody. First responders they're heroes. Every one of them. Incredible. Shout out to first responders. Every time I see them, I just nod my head in like complete reverence and admiration. Like to be such a giving and brave individual, to be like, I'm gonna take up one of the hardest, most dangerous jobs and be subjected to really horrible things all the time, but just to help my fellow man and woman and to save lives and do better. That says so much about a person. Anybody who follows, becomes a first responder, like, man, I've got so much respect for them. They're just incredible human beings. I would love to have been on that show and played a character on that. That would be a lot of fun. But is it still? Great, well maybe it'll happen. Maybe it'll happen. I'll tell you this. I had a period when I was younger too, I was kind of fascinated with detectives. Homicide detectives. I don't know why, but I always, maybe because my father read me a lot of Sherlock Holmes and things like that when I was a kid. And it's the psychology of it too. I've always wanted to play a really good cop role. And I've done it a few times, but there's something more significant in my future. I think at the age and stage I'm at now, hopefully something's coming down the line where I get to play a brilliant detective of some sort. That would be cool. I'm putting it out there because of you.
What about the last one? What about Doctor Who?
Hey,
Have you heard of that one?
If they were going to bring me to the UK to play on the iconic series Doctor Who, I would do it in a hot second. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so sorry if I word this weird. You played Goodrill, as we all know, who was kind of like, he wasn't a bad character, but he was mentally manipulative to an extent. But then you also played Michael Hastings in Criminal Minds, which is another one of my favorite shows, who is also mentally manipulative, and obviously that got more physical because he tortured JJ and everything. So the characters are kind of similar to an extent. Which character did you have more fun playing?
Well, I mean, the easy answer is Goodrill, just because it was more significant, and it was, I worked with those guys over 5 or 6 episodes over an entire season, so it's more dear to my heart in that way. That episode of Criminal Minds was a lot of fun. Hastings was a bad guy. He was a bad CIA guy. He was a sociopath. I mean, if you see the way he ends, torturing JJ, it speaks volumes about who the guy actually was. It's challenging playing dark characters like that. I don't mind it, and I think I was asking for it at that point in my career because I just finished playing, it's coming off of 2 series where I was playing very upstanding sort of moral characters, right? And Criminal Minds was fun. That was their 200th episode, I think, and they put a ton of money into that. It was a big episode. We did some epic battle scenes, and there was some really cool stuff in that. And I got to mix it up with incredible actors, including JJ and Issa Morales, who was an amazing actor, and just all of them. It was a lot of fun. Goodrill's definitely more dear to my heart, but it's funny when you associate them because it's something I didn't even think about. But there are those similarities for sure. I think that's a keen observation on your part. But I've never really thought about them together in any capacity. Just I had them very separate because they were 2 different things. But it's interesting that you bring that point up. Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you.
huge fan of Dollhouse. I actually just rewatched it, showing it to my son for the first time, and he agreed it was amazing.
How long had it been since the first time you watched it?
When it first aired.
See,
Yeah,
I haven't
own
seen it again either, and I'm really due. I haven't seen it since it first aired.
Rewatching it was like, because you know, you remember what you knew and what you didn't see. And we agreed, you know, it didn't get its fair shot. It was totally shut off before it, you know, had a chance. It was just going places. I heard the ending was kind of forced because it wasn't the original way it was meant to go, because it ended last minute, is my understanding.
Yeah, they were just trying to wrap it up.
Do you know what they really wanted to do with it? Or do you have a different version that you would have wrapped it up with a little bow? The first time I was really mad. The second time going through the show, I was like, okay, I can kind of see this. So what did you think?
I'll tell you this. So when we finished that first season, the first season was really, really trying. Just briefly, this show, fans, the media, everybody was so excited about it. It was being built up to be such a huge thing that Joss Whedon was coming back and working with Fox, that it was all over. There was so much press about it. This is really just before social media was really blowing up. And it's a huge press machine. I was super excited. There was a lot of talk that we were going to open for 24, which was the #1 show at the time. That's a big deal. It was like, I remember my manager calling me. He's like, everybody's talking about this show. You guys are going to open for 24. This is huge. We shot the pilot. The network did what they said they weren't going to do, and they came to Joss and said, listen, we want to change some things. So we had to reshoot the pilot. Kind of cannibalized the first couple episodes, changed some things around. They were messing. The guy's brilliant, right? You kind of got to let him do his thing, but unfortunately they didn't. And it really threw a wrench into the wheel very early on. So that first season was really trying for us as actors and everyone else. And I can't even imagine what Joss and his writing team were going through, because they were left scrambling to make adjustments to something that was well thought out and planned already, as Joss does. And he had an incredible writing team with him too. So it was really bumpy, and there were some episodes that just didn't work, and there were some that were great and showed you the real potential of the show, right? I mean, I personally, selfishly, I really loved Man on the Street, like my episode. That was such a cool episode. And the way we ended, I wasn't sure we were going to get the second season. But the network sent Joss Whedon and I to Comic-Con New York to do a press tour. And Joss kind of let me know, he's like, we're going to get the second season. And I was like, yes, okay, amazing, this is good news. But again, I think it was 6 episodes in. I remember the day on set. Joss looked like something was on his mind, and I tried to pull him aside. We were doing a big 10-hander, like most of the actors were in the scene. And I was like, hey, you okay? Like, is everything okay? And he's like, I'm going to say something soon. When he said that, I was like, oh, shit. Because I thought it might be, something personal, but I could tell that it probably wasn't. And he made the announcement to set. He said, listen, so I hate to say this, but we've gotten word that the show is going to be canceled. But they're going to let us finish out our last 8 episodes. So at that point, I made a real promise to myself that I was just going to make the most out of every single day that I had with the rest of these actors and this crew. Because oftentimes shows the plug is pulled and that's it. You're done. You're not going back to work. You're not going to see those people again. It can be really violent and hard. But this was, we had an opportunity to see out the rest of the season. So that was a good thing. So I made a point of just reminding the younger crew, younger cast who didn't have another series under their belt that, they just really needed to enjoy it. And I did my part in a small way, and some of the other veteran actors did. And we all had a good time, but you could tell that they had to make major adjustments. You're writing in such a way, Joss Whedon and his writing team, all Jane Espenson, like all the amazing writers that he's surrounded by, they're writing with very clear arcs about where they're going to go season after season. We're going to give you bits of this in the second season near the end, and it's going to bleed into this in the third season, and we'll develop the character in this way. And being told suddenly that the show's not going to go and you've got 8 episodes to wrap things up, I can't even imagine the stress and the challenge of that. But they did as good of a job as they could do, and there was some really good stuff there. But yeah, like you, I've always said, even if we could have got one more season, I think everyone would have been a lot more happy with with the way things ended. I think they would have been able to wrap things up, justly. That said, I think they did a great job, and I'm always grateful to have had that experience. Thank you.
Hello, I just wanted to ask, oh dear God, I just forgot.
You blanked out?
I blanked out.
Hey, it happens.
Yeah. When you started playing Hilo in Battlestar Galactica, did you have any idea at that time how iconic that show would become?
That's a good question. I didn't, but I'll tell you, when I read the sides for my audition, I knew that it was something special. I'm old enough that I remember the original. I was a little kid, but I remember it. And when I did when I had this, everybody knows what sides are, right? Sides are the pages, the scenes that you do for an audition. So when I had the sides, it was this scene where I give up my seat, and the way I read him, he was mortally wounded, but he was trying to hide it from Boomer. He didn't want her to know. He was a real hero type. You could tell that this guy was a special guy, willing to give up his life and his seat to the resident genius so that he could survive, because he saw, there wasn't going to be much left of humanity. There was a nuclear war going on, and they'd been attacked, and the planet was going to be destroyed. So that said a lot about who he was. You could tell the writing was excellent. But at the time, I think there was a real lull in sci-fi shows of that capacity. There really wasn't anything like Battlestar. And to this day, Battlestar really set a new precedent. There's nothing really been like it since. There's been some excellent shows like The Expanse, and there's been other ones, but he was really doing something new. I don't think any of us really had a sense of the true potential of the show until we were well into it. Maybe by the end of the first season, because I think end of the first season, or even by the time we started the second season, we had like Time magazine say this is the best show on television. The critics and people the response to the show started coming back, and it was exceptional. That said, our veterans like Edward James Olmos were saying from the jump, Eddie was like, this is going to be the best thing you ever did. We'd always be like, Eddie, don't curse the rest of our career, please. He was like, this will be the best thing you've ever done. Appreciate it, love it. He really wanted us to recognize, because this is a Mexican-American who came up in the business when it's very hard to be a Mexican-American. There's only so many roles to fight for, but he was such an amazing actor. He's a 7-time Tony Award-winning actor. Incredible actor that he came up and he struggled, and he had a really, really good career. He's an Academy Award nominee, but he knows how tough the business is, and he'd been in it 40 years at that point, as had Mary, as had Michael Hogan, and they just knew how special it was, and that's why they signed on to the show, because they read that pilot, and they saw the potential of it, and they heard from the showrunners, Ron Moore and David Icke, about where they were taking the show, what the vision was, and they when you have actors of that caliber sign on with full confidence, and you're young like we were, when they'd say it, you'd want to believe in it, but you were also like, is he being serious? Like, is it really going to be this big? And now looking back, and even 2 years in, we were like, wow, this is really something incredible. And Eddie always said, 20 years from now, this show is going to still be talked about all the time. In the last couple of years, we've arguably had more press about Battlestar than we've ever had. It's nuts. It's crazy. This many years later, Eddie's just some sort of mystic. Nostradamus. Yeah, it's amazing. I'm just so grateful to have been a part of that amazing piece of art, and yeah, it's really amazing. Yeah, very, very grateful. Thank you.
First off, my girlfriend just texted me. She's like, haha, somebody beat you to Battlestar, haha. So my thing is, first of all, I just want to tell you, Hilo had the best character arc.